Hello and welcome to the RCB radio show. My name is Rynne and I'm joined here by Seamus Hayes. And we're going to have a look back over the last weekend senior football. We're going to have a look at the ladies football as well. And there's a few important hurling games coming up this weekend as well. So you're very welcome, Seamus.
Thanks, Nicholas. Thank you.
So I suppose we'll start off with the game that was played out there in Cusick Park. There was nothing at stake really, only top billing, and Lissy Casey and Cracklow played out a very entertaining game, albeit there wasn't too much at stake, and Cracklow just came out on top by the 2 points.
Yeah, that's right. There was some lovely football in it now, to be honest, and good scoring, which I suppose is something we're always looking for in Clare football, because over the years games have tended to be low scoring, but there was some fine scores in a good game. And I think, with all respect to everybody, Cracklow showed that they're serious contenders once again. They're going very well, they're fresh, they're hungry, and they have loads of experience. So, they're well in contention.
They are indeed. And does it mean a lot to get the top spot? Or?
Well, sure. At this stage, I don't think it is overly important, because I think any of the teams that are in it at this stage are capable of beating each other. Particularly in Clare football, that's the way it always has been. But if you get the top spot, you won't be meeting another top spot team. And I suppose the view at the moment is most clubs feel that they're trying to avoid the holders who seem to be going very well. So
but I suppose if you're going to win the county title, you've got to meet all comers anyway. So.
Correct, and I think that's that has to be the way that each of the clubs left are approaching it. We've seen that. We've seen at one stage last weekend, at one stage on Sunday, midway through the second half of the two games involved, Kilmurray and Brechin were heading to be in the relegation playoff, and then a goal in the Innis time and Dunbay game turned that around. And Clondigad, who had been unbeaten, were beaten last week, and they finished up in third spot, and they're now involved in the playoff. There's nothing between the teams, and if they all have full squads available, I think there'll be some great games from here on in.
Yeah, there should be. Yeah, I was up on Innis Diamond there on Saturday evening. We had St. Breckin's against St. Joseph's Milltown. A game I thought the first half was very poor, to be quite honest, and maybe there was a reason. There was a lot of cat and mouse over and back possession football played. I suppose in his time, if anything, they had the better. St. Joseph's Milltown had the better of the first half. They seemed to push up a bit more, but the second half was a different affair then.
Yeah, Milltown. Of course, Milltown were playing for their senior status. Like, they didn't want to be obviously in the relegation playoff, and it's a tough place to be. There are three teams in that position now, playing off with one going to go down, and obviously none of the three want to go down. Who would want to be relegated? Everybody wants to stay up.
Yeah. So
I suppose from that point of view, Milltown were playing for their senior status. St. Breckin's equally were playing, to copper fasten their position and get through to the playoffs, because they've been close over the last couple of years, and they have a lot of good young players, and I think they kind of came to the fore in the second half last week, and that's what saw St. Breckin's through on the day.
Yeah, I suppose the standout player there for me was Alan Sweeney. He's really coming into his own now, and at centre back there, he was really.
Yeah, certainly he has blossomed since he got on the county panel there 2 years ago. For the last 2 or 3 years, his training and being involved with the county senior panel, he's worked so hard and established himself as a first choice defender on the county senior squad, and he's a born leader, if you like. He was captain of Breckin's for the last couple of years, like Dale Masterson has that role now. But they're a group that have put in an awful big effort over the last couple of years, St. Breckin's, and the target is to be county champions, and there's no doubt about that. And I suppose you could say the same for every club, but Breckin's really have worked hard, and there's a consistency, if you like, in their play now. Their consistency in the top, and getting through to the latter stages of all the competitions they play in. So Alan Sweeney has been to the forefront in that.
Yeah, absolutely. They are they have been in this. They're in familiar territory. I think they've been in 3 quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken, over the last 3 years. So they really want to push forward on this one.
Certainly they would, yeah, and they spare no effort. You know, they have a strong panel, big squad. I know, like Liam Tierney has been a long-term injury for them, and he's been out for most of the last year. And you know, he's a fine, strong player. He would be a big asset to them as well. But they have a lot of good young players like Jamie Steck, Joe McGann, Dale Masterson himself, McIlburn, you know, and the O'Briens. They really have a very good squad. Tristan O'Callaghan, the goalie, and the only Gary, the manager, has worked very hard to put a good management team together. You know, and they have good coaches, they have good strength and conditioning guys. So they are well organised, and they're putting massive work into trying to win this championship.
Absolutely. For Milltown, who were champions in 18 and 19, back-to-back champions and great champions and still great players, they find themselves now in the relegation battle. Yeah,
they were drawn in a tough group, I suppose, from the word go. You know, that was a very tough group to be in, and you know, they've been beaten in the first round, right? Really put them on the back foot, if you like. You know, beaten by a lively Corofin team. So there is a position, you know, that's tough now. Now they've been in it before, they've been involved in relegation battle before, and they have battled their way out of it. But you know, it's 3 teams now battling for their lives, if you like. You know, Milltown, Dunbeg, you know, and Kilmahel. Kilmahel have been down before as well and fought their way back up. So there's a lot at stake in there for them now. But for Milltown, in fairness, it needs to be pointed out that they have been hit heavy with injuries this year. And the biggest loss, I suppose, of all has been the loss of Gordon Kelly, who is a phenomenal player for Milltown over the last decade. Great leader, you know, and his loss was really, I think, huge, and it cost them dearly. And then they picked up injuries. And like at the moment, Cormac Murray's out injured. And at the start of the championship, he was in flying form, you know, getting great scores and big scores. And like to have to play without Gordon and him at the same time is a massive blow. So they'll be obviously keeping their fingers crossed that Cormac will be back for next week's relegation playoff. But hamstring injuries take 3 or 4 weeks, and that's the problem. Whether he'll be ready or not is doubtful.
Yeah. They faced Dunbeg, and I think the winners play Kilmahel. I think that's the way it goes.
The losers play Kilmahel.
The winners play Kilmahel for the bottom.
The winners will be safe, and then the losers play Kilmahel, and the losers will let go down.
That's right. And that was our next clash. We're coming to is Kilmahel and St. Joseph's Dura Bearfield. Yeah,
I watched that game. You know, Joseph started very impressively and ran up a big lead. I think they went 9 or 10 points up. I think it was 2-4 to a point at one stage. And then Kilmahel stormed back into it with 2 goals, and they cut the deficit back to 1 point early in the second half. But you know, they had put in a huge effort to get back to that stage. That they weren't able to kind of, if they could have got level or got a point ahead, I think they might have been able to pull something out of it. But Joseph have a lot of good young players. They have a lot of work done over the last couple of years. Tom McDonald was very impressive once again. The Hannon brothers, very impressive as well. So if they can keep it going, they're now in a playoff for a place in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
You know, and who's to say that they won't get through to that?
Yeah, they come up against Clonagad.
Yeah.
And that brings us neatly on to Kilmurray Bricken and Clonagad. Now, Clonagad were going really well in this game, but I think it's a case of the old dog for the long road. Kilmurray Bricken, when you look at their team, every one of them have county medals going back along and long careers. And they were fighting for their survival as well, of course. And
you could probably say at times that they're playing on autopilot because, you know, they're so used to the system that they have. But they've been getting better with every game. And, you know, as you said, the experience that they have. And Keelan Sexton is a good target man up front. But, you know, they really have bounced back into it now. And they're who'd bet against them not winning the championship, because that's their target. James Murray here has put a strong management team in place. He has got, as you said, there's so many experienced players in the Coughlins, the Martin McMahons, Shane Hickey, and like last week they were without their captain Darren Hickey, the fullback, who has been ever present over the last 10 years, I suppose. He has been there, but they have a very good mix now, and Dermot Coughlin is back to full fitness, and should be a brave man that would predict that who would say that they won't win the championship at this stage. You know,
in the finalists for
they've been in the final more than their share of finals, and they're going to be hard to stop.
Yeah, Clonagad were in a position that if they were beaten, they weren't going to go out of the championship. Rumour has it that they got their sums wrong at the end, that they got a chance to take a point from a free and win for a goal. If that's true, that they only lost out by a point. It was Innistraimen +3, Kilmurray Bricken +2, and Clonagad +1. That's a very fine margin.
Very fine margin, yeah. But losing the game, like Clonagad had to win the game really to be safe. To be safe and move up the line. But it just shows you, from a spectator's point of view, the system is very good, very entertaining, and doing the sums throughout the second half last Sunday, like there were people ringing the other venue and see how it was going, and the positions were changing practically every minute. 1 minute Clonagad were going to be top and we're going to hold on, and Kilmurray were going to be in the relegation playoff, and just a score at one venue changed everything. So from that point of view, it's very exciting for the supporters. Now it's nerve-wracking for the players and for the clubs, and you're trying to get messages out on the field. We need a point, we're down, and you could see that happening last week. There was messages being fired out in the field at both venues. We need a point, or score differences affecting this. So.
Yeah, it was changing by the minute almost. We were in Milltown and we were looking at the results, trying to get what was happening in Innis and trying to do the sums at the same time. Yeah. It's very exciting, actually, as you say. And in a big match last Sunday, which was was going to define Innistraimen's season, I suppose. They could have easily gone out, as well as they could have been fighting. At one part of the game, they were facing relegation, and the next they were top in the group. It's just amazing how fine it is. Themselves and Dunbeg, and Dunbeg came out and they took the lead and they hit the front, and they were 5 points to 2 up at half time, and they had a wall across the sort of middle third, as they call it. And in his time, they didn't know what to do, really. Well, not that they didn't know what to do, but they found it very hard to break him down. But in the second half, I suppose the younger legs, maybe, I'm not sure. The introduction of Kevin Haar was immense, as well as Ryan Barry, and it changed the game around.
It was a similar situation the previous week in relation to Kevin Haar. The previous week against Kilmurray Bricken, his introduction turned the game in Innistraimen's favour on that occasion, in my opinion, as well. Yes. He carried the ball, ran at them, created openings, and was able to find teammates. And I believe it was the same last week. To me, that result was huge for Innistraimen. Not just that it qualified them, but over the past number of years, Innistraimen have struggled to put two impressive performances back to back. They've struggled to do that, but now they did it over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and the confidence is growing there. And they have a good mix of youth and experience. And Brindy Rynne is a typical example of that, like a guy who just did his leaving cert a couple of months ago, teenager, and he's playing like a veteran. He's very calm and cool under pressure. And as you say, David Fitzgerald and Kevin Haar worked well together. Carl Malone was an absentee the last day, which was a big blow to them through injury, but they'll be hoping to have him back. And nobody will want to get them either. Everybody will be trying to avoid him now in the quarter final.
Absolutely, yeah. And Killian Wennis at the back was immense. David Fitzgerald started at full forward, but when he came out the field, and more so when Kevin Haar came in. Kevin Haar is his first cousin, so I'd say they've been playing together since they were toddlers. So They live quite close to each other as well, so they just know each other inside out. So Doonbeg were disappointed in the end. There was they got a goal. I think it was David Tuberty. It was ruled as an
outside,
square ball, as a square ball. The management were disappointed. They were disappointed at it. For me, I thought it was the square ball. Looking at it in the video after, but somebody said that the goalkeeper had actually played it. So I don't know where the rule stands there.
Yeah, they were disappointed, and I spoke to a number of people. I didn't see that particular incident, but I spoke to a number of people, who were convinced that the goal should have been allowed. Which would have made a big change in who's qualified and to have changed the positions around again. But Doonbeg are now finding themselves now battling for survival as senior status. They've had a couple of lean years. They've played better this year than they had for the last couple of years. And their management has kind of got spirit going there again. So I think they'll be hard to put down. They'll be fancy to overcome Milltown in the first of the relegation playoff games. They have a seasoned team. I suppose the problem for Doonbeg over the last couple of years is that they don't seem to have had any young players coming through, and they're dependent on the senior brigade, if you like, in the team, like the David Hubbard's, Pádraig Ahern, the current captain, fellas like that. They're depending on those kind of to carry them on and to keep them going. But Doonbeg is a very proud club, and the possibility of they being regraded or relegated, I'm sure will lift spirits back there big time, and they'll battle hard, and they'll have trained hard last week and this week.
Yeah, if Brindy Rowan was playing like a veteran, David Tuberty was playing like a 21-year-old. He was immense. He scored 3 from play, 3 from frees, and they weren't that easy frees either. And he's just Mr. Doonbeg, really, isn't he?
He is certainly, sure, like his father before him, Tommy, who carried Doonbeg for years, I suppose, and inspired them for years. But David is a born leader. He's a fantastic performer. He, despite the fact that he's now seen to be in the veteran category, would say he's playing superb football, and he's so much talent, and he can kick with either foot and kick spectacular scores with either foot. And he's a guy that's very difficult to mark. And Milltown will find him a handful next week in the first of the relegation playoffs. He is, and we've seen that with his performances with Clare over the past couple of years, the fantastic scores he got in games.
So just to sum up there, Seamus, Éire obviously topped the group. St. Brecken's go through and Corofin go through.
Yeah.
In the
from group one. From group one,
and then from group two, the two you have Cratloe topped.
Cratloe topped the group in this case. He was second in group 3 in his time and topped it. And
Kilmurray Bricken go through.
Kilmurray Bricken were second, and the third team in both group 2 and group 3, namely Kinmehel and St. Joseph Dover-Bearfield. Sorry, Clondigad and St. Joseph Dover-Bearfield. They play off for the last spot.
Yeah,
and it's knockout football from here on in. Winner on the day. It's a different ball game now. It's knockout and it's winner on the day, and the possibility of a penalty shootout, I think, is very live in Clare football. Such as the closeness of the teams.
Absolutely. We'll turn now to the Intermediate Championship. Kildysart were ahead of their group. Clare were ahead of their group. Wooltones, Shannon were ahead of their group. Michael Cusick's and Wooltones were the first game up. Seamus, how did that game go?
Wooltones were comfortable winners. Cusick's are struggling, and they were down a few players, and they were missing the Donald McMahon, the inter-county hurling panelist. Didn't play for either Cusick's or Tubber in the past week because of injury. And Cusick can't afford to miss any player. They're now into the relegation zone, trying to hold on to their status. But Wooltones have been very impressive this year. They've been very consistent, and They've run up big scores in all their games, you know, and they'll have a say in the destination of the Intermediate Cup this year. They'll have a say in it. Clare, obviously, very strong. You know, having been relegated last year, and they're so determined to get back up to senior status straight away, and they're well on course to do that. And we all saw Kildare earlier in the year. They were in the QC Cup final, and maybe a bit unlucky in that, but they're going strong now. They have been dealt a massive blow in recent weeks with the loss of Diarmuid O'Donnell with a cruciate knee injury, and ruled him out. He was the top scorer and had been flying for him, so he's ruled out. I suppose one of the big talking points is Kilrush seem to be struggling. You know, a senior club for many years, and relegated last year, and they seem to be struggling a bit. You know, they have lost one and they've been held to a draw on one. So now they have qualified, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility of them going out of the championship unless their form improves. Now they have an awful lot of young players introduced this year. Daniel Rynne and his backroom team have introduced a lot of young players, many of them who are in 18, 19, you know, and you need a bit of experience when it comes to this level of competition. And they're up against one of the most experienced teams in the intermediate grade next week in O'Curry's, albeit that O'Curry's are working off a very small panel. Like, if you studied the form over the last 3 or 4 rounds, I think O'Curry's rarely have been in a position that they could introduce a substitute, because they're working off a panel of 17 really, and if they have an injury or two, the 15 that start are usually the same 15 that finish. So that'll be an interesting game next weekend. There'll be a lot of interesting games next weekend in the quarterfinals, or this weekend in the quarterfinals of that championship.
Yeah, and in Steinman there are going well too in their group. When the club is going well, it's going well, I suppose.
It is, and I think that the fact that in Steinman are going well in both senior and intermediate, obviously the big numbers of training, they're in a position that they're able to have in-house full matches whenever they train. You know, and if you look at that intermediate team that they have, there's quite an amount of experienced players who have been regulars on their senior team for throughout the last decade. Like fellas who played for the county, like Lawrence Healy, Joe Downing, these guys, you know, and they're now strong leaders in the intermediate setup. So I certainly, there'd be a brave man that would rule them out of contention for intermediate honours. You know, they just have a lot of players and they are going well, and it will take a big effort to stop them.
Yeah, in intermediate, you know, if you look at Kilfenora, who have fallen really from being county champions, and that's only a few years ago. The intermediate is such a tough competition to win, and every year there's a top senior team joining the intermediate grade. And I mean, with Clare in their group now, it was hard for them, and Kilrush are down, and it's just it's a very hard competition to win and get out of.
Yeah, it is, and I suppose a lot of people would feel that the intermediate grade has produced consistently better games, I would say, over the last number of years, more so than the senior, where some of the games in the senior have disappointed. But it's a very difficult championship to get out of. I suppose Kilfenora are another one of the clubs that have suffered from, I suppose, drop in population numbers, and they're, you know, that's the only team that they have. They're struggling for numbers as well, because they've rarely been in a position to introduce subs, or if they have, they've only been able to introduce one. You know, so they've been struggling as well, and it is a difficult position to be in. Like if you look at not Clare in general, apart from St. Brecken's, the other clubs who are putting in great performances, but they're struggling for numbers. Liscannor, you know, it's not that long since Liscannor contested back-to-back county senior finals. Now they're struggling, I suppose, at junior A level.
Yep.
You know, Barry Vaughan, Michael Cusick's lack of numbers there causing problems for them. So it's something that they have to work on. But it's part of, I suppose, it's part of the scene in football in Clare.
Yeah. So just to sum up in Group 1, you have Kildare and Kilrush gone through, and did Coolmean make it through?
No, Coolmean and relegation players.
Relegation, yeah. Sorry, yeah. And then you have Clare in Steinman coming out of Group 2. and then you have Wolf Tones and
O'Curry's.
Yeah,
and the two best third place teams going through are Shannon Gales and Navan. They've both made it into the quarterfinals.
Mays and Navan had no point up until last weekend.
That's right, but they had been very unlucky in their game against Kilrush, where they ran Kilrush to 1 point.
Yeah,
I suppose
the difference.
Again,
what I'm saying is the tightness of the competition.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They've won another one. The clubs was playing from a small base, but they've kept it going there very well over the last over the last number of years. And you've Colmeen now playing Kilfenora, fighting for survival. And Michael Cusick is the other team in that. One of those three will be relegated.
So there's still a bit of football to be played.
There's still the next month. We'll see a lot of football and a lot of things changing, and I think you'll have a lot of interesting clashes, if you like, over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And just to the ladies' Gaelic football, Seamus, could you give me an update on where we're at?
Yeah, they have five. They've played 5 rounds in the championship over the last 5 weeks, and the champions banner ladies have been most impressive. They've won all their games. They're heading for another title. It would seem it's going to take a big effort to stop them. Now obviously no club can, I suppose, keep it going every week. There'll be weeks when there'll be when form will dip and when people will be missing due to injury. But at the moment, they're hot favourites. The banner to add another title to their collection. Kilmehel have only lost 1 game, and that was to the banner. So they are assured of their position in the knockout stage. After that, the battle for the other 2 semi-final places is really hotting up, and there's a crucial game this Sunday where West Clare Gales travel to Kilmurray O'Brien to play Kilmurray O'Brien. West Clare Gales, Kilmurray O'Brien, St. Joseph's, Dora Bearfield, and Burden Gales. Those 4 are kind of battling for the other 2 other 2 semi-final spots to join the banner and Kilmehel. Games this weekend will have a big bearing on that, but none more so than West Clare Gales against Kilmurray O'Brien on Sunday in Quilty. That's going to be a huge game. West Clare Gales, trained by Michael Carmody, they've always been there or thereabouts. But at the moment, the odds are on the banner to collect another title. They're just absolutely flying for them. JJD obviously has a lot of work done there with them, and it will take a huge effort to stop them.
Absolutely. So that's the football for this week, Seamus. We'll have a look now at there's 3 fairly important hurling games on this weekend as regards relegation and so on. 6 Mile Bridge play Clonlara, and this is an important game for Clonlara.
Right. It's a very important game for Clonlara. Clonlara out of the reckoning for the championship, but they need to get something out of this game so that they won't be tied up in relegation. And I suppose they're a club that has disappointed, I suppose, a lot over the last number of years, because on paper they have huge talent. They have many talented players, but they don't seem to be getting the best out of them, and they don't seem to be getting the best squad together on any given day. But there's no doubting their talent. 6 Mile Bridge have been very impressive so far this year. Like, they've won their 3 games today convincingly. They're amongst the favourites for the title, if not the favourites at this stage. But they're amongst the favourites for the title. So it will be an interesting battle, definitely, between the two clubs.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing Clonlara have their favourites 6 Mile Bridge are already through, but that doesn't necessarily make it much easier either. The next game then is Fecal and Whitegate. Fecal have they can get through, but I mean it's They have to win like something by 27 points or something like that.
They have to win. They have to win by well over 20 points, which is a tall order. And Whitegate are never easily beaten. They're one of the clubs that's working off a kind of a small base as well,
Yes.
and a small panel. But they have put a lot of big guns to the sword in the last couple of years. And they have avoided the relegation playoff in recent years. Now that it looks as if they'll find it hard to avoid it this year. They're probably in it, and that relegation battle as of now is looking like an East Clare championship. That's the way it is looking at the moment, but you just don't know for definite. But it's a huge ask for Fecal to try and win that by so many points. So the first quarter of an hour will tell a lot in that game, because if they can get a grip on things and get a bit of a lead, then they can pile on the pressure and go for broke, if you like. But Whitegate won't be easily pushed aside.
I mean, not for certain. The next game in Broadford, who did Broadford play?
They play Broadford and the Paladins. No, the Broadford play Clarecastle, sorry.
Oh, Clarecastle, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a huge tie in the sense that whoever loses that will be in the relegation playoff.
Yeah. They're very important games. Nobody wants to go down to intermediate. If you go down to intermediate, there's no guarantee you're coming back up for a while.
That's the thing, because there are a number of good teams in intermediate. Look at St. Joseph's. They have been on the verge of getting up for the last couple of years, but haven't made it yet. I know they made it a few years ago and got to a Munster intermediate final, and then went back down again. And it's so hard. It's so hard to I suppose maintain the standard or maintain the challenges at the level that one is at, and any result can kind of turn the game. Look at Scariff. They're very impressive. Came up 2 years ago, and now they're in the battle to try and avoid going down again. So there's a lot at stake in those games, an awful lot at stake. And that Clarecastle Broadford game, that's a huge game. That's a straight knockout game, and both sides. Both sides have mixed the good with the not so good this year so far. Both have a lot of very good young players. Clarecastle have been putting a kind of a new team together, if you like, over the last couple of years. So Broadford would have been disappointed to be in the position that they're in, because they have kind of been knocking on the door for the last couple of years, but they just haven't been able to get that extra step, if you like.
Yeah, there were 2 points at the good right at the death when the Mills got an 8-minute goal.
Got a goal, yeah.
The 2 points is the worst lead you can have, I suppose, especially.
So it is. There's a danger. Yeah, everyone will say 2 points is a dangerous lead.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's about it. We have a few. Davy, our former manager Davy's gone to Waterford. We have a few changes up and down. Kelly is a new man in Offaly.
Johnny Kelly, yeah.
Micheál O'Donoghue has gone to Dublin. So there's a few changes around the country.
Yeah, there's a few changes around, and we won't feel it until all those the pressure comes on when the league starts early in the new year, and time is going so fast that you won't feel until we'll be back in action. They're all big moves. Dublin, I suppose. Micheál O'Donoghue going to Dublin. Seemingly he was the man they wanted, and they've got their man now. But whether or not they can get the squad together that would that's going to deliver the goods, it's a county that must have huge talent.
Yeah.
It's a huge, big county with a lot of big clubs, but they've struggled, I suppose. The footballers have kind of, any of the good dual players have tended to opt for the footballers, and the one man we all hear him talking about, that if they could get him for the Holland team, it would make a massive difference. Conor Callaghan. Yeah. He's been outstanding with the footballers. He is a real talent. And if they could get him into the Holland squad, the word is that it would make a massive difference. Yeah. But it's a tough call. It's a big job for Micheál O'Donoghue. Equally with Davy and Waterford, they've been so close over the last 5 or 6 years. It's a massive move. Going back to where you were before, can you do as good as you did then? He had him in an All-Ireland final before. He had him They won a Munster championship. He led them to a Munster championship. They've undoubted talent, but he's heading into a season now where two of the Bennett brothers won't be available because they had middle range to go traveling. They're going off to Australia. A massive loss. They would be a massive loss to Waterford. But it's a tall order for Davy, and but I'm sure he'll challenge. He'll make the challenge exciting. So from that point of view, there's a great buzz around the place. And everyone looking to see, can anyone step up to dethrone Limerick? That'll be the big ask.
That's it. And you can't keep a good man down. Brian Cody stepped away from the inter-county scene, and now he's trained his backroom team in his club.
His own club backroom team, and he'll bring a wealth of experience with him.
Can you imagine being in a dressing room starting off your career and Brian Cody walks in?
Oh, sure, to lift fellas big time. And he's done so much for the game, and he's seen it all, and there's no doubting the experience that he has. So there will be exciting times in the championship in Kilkenny over the coming weeks because of that.
Absolutely. Seamus, as usual, you've been most insightful. We've covered the football there. We've covered the important hurling games. A lot of games coming up in the next few weeks now. The real championship starts now, I suppose, when it comes down to the last 8 in both the football and the hurling. So we look forward to that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, certainly. This is a real championship now, and there'll be big crowds. The crowds will get bigger now because it's knockout time. There'll be draws. There'll be extra times. There'll be an odd penalty shootout, whether it be in hurling or football, which will add to the excitement. And there'll be disappointments and there'll be celebrations. So the next 6 to 8 weeks is going to be massive in Clare GA.
Absolutely. And I just want to say well done to the Clare GA. It's great to see the kids in around the pitch there. Now that they can wear their helmets and go in. And it'll bring more young fellas to games as well. When they go back to school, they'll be saying how they were in Cusack Park. So well done on that. Seamus, thanks a million. We'll talk to you again next week, please, God.
No problem, Nicholas.
No problem. We'll see you around.
Thank you.
Thanks, Seamus.
Okay. Thanks, Nicholas. Bye.
It's going to be a lovely week.